Reading Plato's dialogue called Phaedo, we witness the death of Socrates in prison. He's been sentenced to capital punishment by drinking a cup of poison. His friends gather around him for a send-off on his very last day on earth. And of course the main topic of their last conversation is death. This Platonic dialogue best expresses Plato's theory of the world of the forms, of the eternal abstract ideals and the meaning of life as a whole. And when speaking about the meaning, or rather the value of life, Plato does not express a particularly positive stance. Here's what he basically says through the mouth of Socrates. All true philosophers must strive toward death, and death not by self-inflicted means, not like suicide, but waiting for death to occur naturally, a death that's brought about by circumstances, or by the hand of God, so to speak. A regular death, uncaused by the one that suffers it, but still desirable to that same person. And here's why. According to Socrates, or more like according to Plato himself, the true philosopher must recognize the fact that no other matter in the world is more important or vital to discuss than the matter of dying. So because of this, since he's spent his entire life pondering and studying death, he shouldn't be afraid and try to run away from it when it eventually comes. After all, death has been the sole focus of his entire life. He should be glad that he's finally gonna get to experience it. And the other reason why the philosopher should want to die, according to Plato, the human body and all its natural needs are evil. He says, we do know that our body isn't telling us the truth about the world around us, right? What we see with our eyes is just a light show trick, not the real physical matter. What we taste and smell is just a figment of our senses, which means our body is literally lying to us. It cannot tell us the truth about the world, just the opposite. It presents us with a distorted reality, a very bad copy of it. Hence, everything that we perceive via our body is evil and false. Sense experiences, physical pleasures, eating, drinking, sex, all of it is just a lie that makes us blind and prevents us from seeing the truth. So what then is the truth? The truth, according to Plato, is to try and look at the world using only our own minds instead of the senses. Plato asks, is there such a thing in the world as true good, justice, beauty, strength, and so on? And he answers, yes, indeed, there are such things. Each one of these things exists in the world in its most perfect form, its most ideal incarnation. But these perfect incarnations are not accessible to us if we're trying to find them through our bodies. The ideal abstract forms, which are the only true things in the world, can only be reached by spiritual means, by the person using the power of their mind. Only through deep knowledge and thoroughly thinking things over, in a deep, trance-like experience, only through a strong separation of our minds from our physical bodies, can we ever come close to the ideal abstract form. And of course, no matter how hard we try to achieve this in life, while we're still embedded in our bodies, we can never truly touch the world of the forms. There's always going to be some bodily sense that's preventing us from doing it successfully. While our spirits are connected to our bodies, there's no way for us to reach the truth. So the only way to reach the truth is through death. And that's why a true philosopher should want to die. Plato gives us this theory about 2,500 years ago. Since then it kind of bulldozed down to the centuries, infecting people's imaginations more and more, until it all leaked into the central ideology of Christianity. What is the main concept of the Christian religion? Precisely that all things earth, all things physical in this world, are from the devil, their lies and deceptions. When we die, our real life begins, where we get judged according to what we did in life, and so were sent to spend eternity in either heaven or hell. Christian ideology, in its rough sense, is a denial of all earthly things as cursed: food, pleasure, pride, satisfaction, sex, the joy of our possessions. All we have in this life is deceitful and evil. And only the world beyond is what really matters. That's the only thing we need to be concerned about and strive towards. So for myself, I'm so horribly torn between loving and hating Plato. I love reading his works, and at the same time, what he ultimately creates is an insane death cult. And this cult isn't even based on sound logic, because in the dialogue he makes his conclusions on the basis of a presumption, and that is the existence of the soul. The concept that each human consists of a separate body and spirit, and that one can exist without the other. And so not only do we have zero evidence about this being true, but also the concept itself is ridiculous. In the argument about whether there's a soul or not, we try to find out whether it exists by already assuming that it just might. We investigate if the soul exists by assuming there might be some inexplicable and invisible part of us which survives after our bodies rot. This is too absurd a concept for us to even begin a serious investigation into. It's like me saying there's fairies on Neptune and then trying to go and prove it, being led by the assumption. And Plato has already accepted his assumption as truth, in order for him to be able to develop his theory of the world beyond, and then be able to explain why he strives for death. The truth, however, is very different. Reading between the lines of his dialogue, as much as he doesn't want to, he gives off an entirely different impression from his actual words. He says, "Oh, I'm not afraid of dying, just the opposite. I want to die, and here's my 100 reasons why." And of course my reasons are based on an assumption that I've already accepted as true, without bothering to prove it, because otherwise my argument would fail. And if my argument fails, then that means that I'm lying. And if I'm lying, that means there is no soul, there is no life after death, there are no ideal forms, and that means that I don't have a reason to want to die. Just the opposite. That means I gotta avoid death at all costs because I have only my physical life at my disposal. And then that means that actually, deep inside, I'm horrified by death. But I've barricaded my mind with a fortress made out of word salad in order to prevent myself from panicking.